What's your secret? You got the kind of vibe that leaves men speechless. It could be model multitasking genius. Yeah, you got it all.
Welcome back to Breakthrough Conversations with Rhoda and Company, where we have real conversations that help you grow, glow, lead, and break through. Today's episode focuses on a simple idea with real impact, the small moments that shape how you lead every day. I'm joined by Ryan McCrea, a senior talent and leadership development executive with more than 2 decades of experience helping organizations build strong leaders, better teams, and healthier cultures. Ryan brings a practical, science-based approach to leadership development that focuses on what actually works in the flow of work. He is the author of Quick Bites of Insight, a book that delivers real-world leadership lessons leaders can apply immediately. I know this because I've been into it today and I've already picked up a bunch of nuggets and I can't wait to finish perusing through the book. He has led enterprise learning and leadership strategy in many mid-sized to large St. Louis organizations and currently serves as the president of the St. Louis Organization Development Network, continuing to shape the future of leadership and organizational development. I am so excited to have you here, Ryan. Thank you for joining. Let's dig in.
Rhoda, I am so excited to be here.
Awesome.
I love it.
I love it. Ryan, give us your story. What led you to focus on leadership and learning in this way, the way that you do it currently?
You know, I think for me, I'll go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved learning and leadership development.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was a kid, it was something I was
Yes.
super interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kind of a nerdy
Yes.
kid that was interested in learning and leadership development.
Mhm.
There's just something that I noticed about how people treated someone that really
Mhm.
understood how to lead and lead well. I was in a lot of martial arts studios when
Mhm.
I was younger. My dad was a martial arts
Wow.
teacher. So seeing him lead that way.
Mhm.
And then at some point, I ended up even leading classes.
Right.
During high school, I picked up a lot of leadership
Mhm.
opportunities. It was just something I'm like, wow, okay, I want to do this more.
Right.
So it got me more excited. And then I went to college and I became
Mhm.
an RA and a peer
Right.
counselor on campus. And I was the president of Psi Chi. And so I was like, okay, like leadership's it for me. I think this is
Mhm.
what I love. And then
Mhm.
once I found that master's of IO Psych degree,
Right.
and I learned like, oh, there's a degree that I can use psychology and
Mhm.
business and really make an impact. I'm like, wow,
Right.
that's it. That's for me. That's when the bells went off. And I was like, okay, I know what I want to kind of do with my life.
That's so rare to, at a very young age, understand what it is that you're passionate about and seek that out. I read in your intro to your book, Quick Bites of Insight, Micro-Sized Learning on Work and Leadership by Ryan McCrea. It is phenomenal. Get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and soon to be other places. But I read in your intro how you described as a kid growing up how inquisitive you were and
Mhm.
curious about behavior, human behavior. And that is so profound to me. And something you just said triggered a thought to me around leadership and the importance of it. I find it to be really critical and important because as a leader, you have a lot of influence over the people you lead and impact. And if you don't take it seriously and lead with care and kindness, you could adversely impact the mental, emotional, physical well-being of individuals. So it's super important in my opinion. So thank you for writing this book and sharing your wisdom with us and all the work that you've done in this space.
That's a big part of why I wrote it, Rhoda.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we really think about it, managers have a massive impact on people.
Yes.
On just their day-to-day, their
Mhm.
lives, their emotional state.
Right.
So I know Gartner a couple years ago put
Mhm.
out a study that said, look, actually it was Gallup,
Mhm.
and it said the emotional impact that someone has on your life, there's 2 people that have the largest emotional
Mhm.
impact on your life.
Mhm.
Your spouse or your partner
Mhm.
and your boss is
Wow.
right there, if not more.
Right.
And that was higher than your friends,
Mhm.
your family,
Right.
your pastor, your
Mhm.
coach, your
Mhm.
mentor, anyone else
Right.
like is your manager
Mhm.
because they have that much of an impact over you. They have that much power over you in a lot of
Right.
ways, informal and formal. So we're taking on a big role when we
Mhm.
become someone's leader, a
That's right.
massive role. We have a massive impact on their
Mhm.
life, their career, and what they talk about when they go home and eat
Right.
dinner with their families.
Right.
And if it's you, I hope they're saying good things.
Right.
Mm, maybe they're not. So it
Right.
depends on the person. If they're not, or you're not sure if they are,
Mhm.
maybe you need to read the book.
Right. I was speaking with someone the other day and I was like, when you've had an impact on an employee that you have had the honor to lead, if they invite you to a family reunion and everybody is like greeting you with open arms, you're Ryan. Oh my God, you're Ryan. She talks about you all the time versus you're Ryan. That is so true. The emotional impact, mental, physiological, you could break or make a person in a leadership role. So that is so true. What was the moment you realized traditional leadership development wasn't enough?
It's not that I don't think it's enough. I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, it's actually more that there's a multitude of ways that you need to try to
Right.
learn and develop and grow people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I was younger and I was getting into the
Mm-hmm.
field in the beginning, and even when I was at school, you talked a lot about, learning in a classroom,
Right.
or you talked about sometimes a program or a cohort
Mm-hmm.
program where people are
Mm-hmm.
going through a cohort program. Those things are good.
Right.
And I think those are a little bit more of a traditional approach to how you really think about learning and leadership development. But those aren't the only way you can do that anymore.
Sure
I think
is.
it's very multimodal when I think about experiential learning. And if we really think about what's going on with microlearning, again, this is another opportunity, another way. So
Right.
I think that those aren't necessarily broken.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when I think about learning and leadership development, I don't think about it as one thing.
Right.
I think about it as a bigger ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Some of that could even be things like infographics.
Right.
People can get a lot out of those
Mm-hmm.
as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it depends on what they're doing, what they're looking, all these different ways that you can get the tools, the resources, the information in front of them, hopefully in the flow of work,
Right.
hopefully when they need it. I'm a big fan of like right training, right person,
Mm-hmm.
right time.
Right.
And that can be in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think microlearning is one of those ways
Right.
that you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Great point. It reminds me of the 70-20-10 rule. A lot of our learning comes from life, day to day,
Mhm.
real situations, moments that matter, which you mentioned in your book. Yeah, so that's so true. So this book is centered on micro-sized learning, which is what you just spoke of. What does that actually look like in real life for a leader?
What I'm actually hearing from people. So I've had quite a few people now that
Mm-hmm.
are already digging into the book.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've heard from just someone last night, I think he even just posted something on
Right.
LinkedIn about it yesterday. He was like, this is like my handbook.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is that management is getting more and more complicated these days.
Yes.
When we think about organizations, look how many people and how many organizations that are just kind of shedding
Mm-hmm.
hundreds, if not thousands of people. Well, what
Yes.
is that doing to organizations?
Mm-hmm.
It's flattening them.
Yes.
And what is that doing to management and
Mm-hmm.
leadership? It means that people that used to have,
Mm-hmm.
10 people or 5 people now might have 2 times that amount of people.
Right.
I just had lunch with someone from an old organization that I
Mm-hmm.
worked at. He said that they flattened everything in the
Mm-hmm.
organization. There's some leaders that have as many as 80 employees now.
Oh, the span of control is off the charts.
It's off the charts. So there you've got span of control off the
Mm-hmm.
charts. You've got these individuals in these roles that are
Mm-hmm.
trying to deal with things that they maybe never have, like
Right.
hybrid teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're having to think about, you're not only going to have to manage labor,
Right.
but digital labor. You might be
Yes.
dealing with bots and agents in the
Mm-hmm.
future when it comes to things that are
Mm-hmm.
going on at your work. Just the world has
It
changed a lot
is.
around management in the last
Mm-hmm.
5 years, and it's
Mm-hmm.
made it a lot more difficult, which means that people have less and less time for development.
Right.
And you and I know, what is the first thing that goes when people don't have time?
Training and development.
It's training and development. It's the time. It's like, even if you care and even if you
Mm-hmm.
want to, you
Mm-hmm.
might not use it.
Mm-hmm.
So those people that I've been talking to that are using this as kind of a handbook are saying
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, the way that I've been using it, Ryan, is when I've got 5-10 minutes, or maybe I'm, perusing or eating lunch, or I'm waking
Mm-hmm.
up in the morning, I've got a couple minutes. I'm looking at the book and looking at 1 or 2 of these and then trying to think about, okay, I'm going to reflect on, what does this mean for me?
Mm-hmm.
How do I want to use it in my day-to-day or use it this week?
Yes.
And then it's there, because the book isn't written in the way
Mm-hmm.
that it's a 300-page book on one topic. It's a
Right.
book with 60 different topics
Mm-hmm.
written in 2 to 3 pages.
Yes.
So it's easy to pick up. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy to look at. You can do it kind of in the flow of work. You also can do it in the morning. Like maybe
Right.
you take a couple minutes and you always drink your coffee in the morning, and you're going to add this
Mm-hmm.
book to your time, your coffee time in the
Right.
morning when you're just
Mm-hmm.
relaxing a little
Right.
bit. So I think it's an opportunity to really plug it in
Mm-hmm.
to where you can, because just people are busy. They
Right.
don't necessarily have all the time. That's why people like going to TikTok.
Mhm.
That's why, like, I haven't read a manual to put anything together, and who knows how long. I
Right.
just go to YouTube and look at that and follow it step by step
Mhm.
there. This is another way to kind of plug that into people
Right.
where they've got a busy, busy life.
Yeah. Quick, easy, simple, digestible. Yeah, our attention spans are pretty short too, and to the point you just made, social media has enabled that.
Mhm.
And so we want things quick. Amazon, YouTube, things at our fingertips. So kudos to you for designing it that way. Do you think you will create this as a audio one day?
I think I will. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
at some point, if I'm going to see like how it reacts and how people like
Yes.
it, I
Mhm.
think doing an audio would be a wonderful way to do it.
Mhm.
And I think from
Mhm.
talking to you and others,
Right.
I think it's probably going to be me that's going to want to do it, because I think
Yes.
if I let somebody else do it, I'll probably end up driving myself nuts listening to it and them going like,
Yes.
"Why
It
did
needs
you
to be
say the
your
word
voice.
that way? Like that isn't how I would have said that."
Right.
So I think at some point that's probably the next
Mhm.
steps.
Mhm. That's great. Great. So, why do you think leaders struggle more with applying knowledge than gaining it?
It's a big one. And
Mhm.
that's a big part of this book too. So I've written a keynote for this book.
Right.
And where I spend the majority of the probably last 5 to 10 minutes of that
Mhm.
keynote is talking about this.
Mhm.
It's the whole idea of that forgetting curve. Like,
Okay.
we know that people, can learn, and I think people do have an
Mhm.
appetite that's
Mhm.
broader and longer than 8 seconds to learn.
Right.
They really
Right.
do.
They do.
They do. And especially if they want to learn, if they
Mhm.
want that topic. So I think
Mhm.
there's a couple interesting pieces about going from learning something to starting to apply something.
Right.
And there's like 4 steps, the 4 R's in between that. I think
Mhm.
the first one is, it has to be something that they really find
Mhm.
as relevant.
Okay.
So what if you're going to try to train them on something they don't care about, you're losing them
You
right
lose
away,
them right off the bat.
right off the
Mhm.
bat. So
Mhm.
one, it needs to be relevant for leaders. So they have to believe that it's relevant, which means you
Right.
should know your leaders, do good needs assessment, find out, make
Mhm.
sure that you're giving them training, something that they really want and
Right.
need.
Mhm.
Then they have to reflect.
Mhm.
So I think that's the part, is like, you may know it in your head, but you've got to reflect
Have
on
you
it a
taken the
little
time
bit
to
and say,
reflect?
okay, what am I taking out of this? How do I need to think about this a little bit
Mhm.
differently? What are the things I want to do differently based on
Mhm.
this? Then I think there's the last 2 R's.
Mhm.
One is you got to get some reps in. You got to
Yes.
start doing it.
Repetition is the mother of learning.
It is. You've got to get those reps in. You've got to get some repetition in. And then I think that last piece too is, if you can, it should be real world.
Yes.
So again, in the flow of work, during that 70%,
Mhm.
like you were talking about,
Mhm.
how do we make sure that you are doing that? Because we don't
Mhm.
teach kids how to play soccer by saying, "Hey, read this book,
Right.
and then you're going to play in a soccer game next week."
Right.
No, like we have them go to practice
Mhm.
and repeat it and
Yes.
do it in the real world. And that is not different for emotional intelligence
Mm-mm.
or giving good feedback or
Right.
trying to influence people.
Mhm.
If you're not doing it,
You're not building that muscle.
you're not building the
Mhm.
muscle. And that forgetting curve, again, it tells us, like, if you
Mhm.
aren't using it, you lose it.
Right.
And that research is like 100 years old. Now they've continued to build on that
Mhm.
research over time,
Mhm.
but it's true. I mean, the reality is, if you don't use it, if you don't break that forgetting curve and make sure that you go back and use
Mhm.
it and make sure that you're
Mhm.
building the muscle, you're never going to build that muscle.
Right.
It's just going to disappear.
Wow. You said something that reminded me, when you used the soccer analogy, of my whole leadership philosophy. The way I lead, the way I describe that is the bicycle. So you don't teach someone how to ride a bike by watching you only ride it. They have to get on, you guide, you coach, you help them steady themselves until they get a balance. And the goal is ultimately to let them go, and you do, and then they can ride freely. So that reminded me of my own personal leadership approach and style. Well stated. What is one small bite that has created a big shift for leaders you've worked with?
The one that I've heard a lot of feedback about, which I think
Mhm.
is kind of interesting, is I have one in there, and it's in the
Mhm.
50s. I think it might be like
Mhm.
53. It's around trauma. So
Yes.
how do you get over, because the reality is that we've all had trauma in the
Mhm.
workplace, and workplaces don't like to talk about this. They don't want
Right.
that word trauma to be associated
Mhm.
with them. But the
Mhm.
reality is, we're human beings,
We are.
and human beings don't always treat each other well.
Mhm.
And stress makes us act different
Mhm.
when we're humans.
Mhm.
So whether we like it or not, no matter how much of a good leader we are, we've probably had a bad day. And we've
Yes.
probably caused trauma to someone in some way. And then
Mm.
work in the environment, and
Right.
sometimes that can cause trauma
Mhm.
to people too.
That's so
So it's
true.
about trauma It's a story about trauma. And then it's about, well, what do you do? Like, how do
Right.
you work through that trauma and
Right.
how can you start working through it so that it's not just something that just lives with you for the rest of your life? Because a lot of that trauma can be baggage for you. And I've
Yes.
personally experienced this. Like sometimes I've moved from job to job and
Mm-hmm.
I keep a little bit of that trauma
Me
from the last
too.
job.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to carry on. Like this is just extra weight that I don't need. Like this environment is not that environment. This
That's so
leader is
true.
not that leader. So
Yes.
that's been one, I think, because we don't talk about it at work. Even though the idea that talking about wellness at work, I think, has become more and more popular, I don't think we've gotten so comfortable yet to say, hey, let's actually talk about
Right.
trauma and
Right.
how do you deal with that?
You can build a whole series of books and learning around workplace trauma.
Mhm.
It really is weird. I recall when I switched jobs and I would get nerved up about doing my presentations in the team setting because I had prior experience that you were going to be shot down, you were going to be critiqued and tore down in front of everyone. And I kept thinking that was getting ready to happen, and it never happened. So I had to remind myself, this is a different group of people, a different workplace, and it's real. That's why we do the work that we do. To the point we made earlier, I want to build leaders and raise their awareness to where they can be more intentional and take care of the people that they're leading and care about the impact that they're having, because it can have lifelong impacts.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the other stats that I loved was a recent article that I was talking about was saying that 40% of people's workplace stress comes from their manager.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that leader. First of all, if any of my prior employees that I've led in my career listen, I want to ask your forgiveness, because early in my career wasn't intentional, but I was like this high driver and I was working 3 and 4 in the morning, sending out emails, not expecting them to respond, but they were feeling the pressure and thinking they had to respond and match how I was working. So that was an error on my part, but I learned over the years that's not the message I want to send or the environment or the culture I want to create. And so I just want to ask them to forgive me for that. But people don't have to make those mistakes like me and others have made because of resources like this and other wisdom that's being shared across the ecosystem for people, and they can learn from it. That's why I'm so glad that people like us, as we matured in our career journeys, we're now pausing, accumulating all the wisdom that we've acquired and sharing it in some format. So what inspired you to write the book?
Oh, wow. So you know what? What's funny is I didn't even know I was going to write a book,
Right.
Rhoda. It actually didn't start out as a book. What I did is back in 2025, I challenged myself to write a quick 300 to 500 word, again, practical, thoughtful. I wanted my readers to reflect and think.
Right.
And so I'm like, I'm going to do this every Wednesday for the rest of the year. Like it's a challenge to myself that I did. And so starting in January, I started doing this. And around May, I was in the shower. Of course, where all good ideas come from. And I was in the shower and I was like, oh my God, I've been writing a book all year.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, holy crap. And so I literally jumped out of the shower. I don't even know if I put deodorant on. I just like threw some clothes on, ran to my computer, pulled everything that off that I either posted or prepared to be posted, because I had like scheduled out a whole bunch of months of stuff. And I already had 10,000 words. So I had 10,000 words already. And so all in one weekend, I pulled all of that down, found I had 10,000 words, wrote the introduction to the book that you guys are reading, at least pretty close to it, pretty close to the introduction, at least probably 90% of what it was. And then also decided to call it Quick Bites of Insight. I rebranded everything on my LinkedIn page, Quick Bites of Insight. And then I also bought the domains for the website that weekend. So all one weekend I was like, I'm in. So like, I've always wanted to write a book. People have been bothering me for at least 4 or 5 years to write a book. They're like, get all this great stuff in your head out. And I was like, okay. Like it just kept coming up, but it wasn't something that I'd really thought about until that moment. It just felt like everything just converged into the perfect moment of like, now this is going to happen and I'm going to do this.
Right. I'm so glad you did. And you and I talked before we came on air. This is it's more than a book. The book is not going to live by itself. There's going to be a whole experience around this and workshops and opportunities to be immersed in this, where it's applicable and people could really live it and experience it. And that is going to be fun to watch. So I love it when you get that idea that it pops up. It's in you. I say everybody have a book, at least one in them. You acted up on it and did it, and you gave yourself goals. Because when you and I first met, you were in the process of getting ready to get it published, and it happened, and here we are today.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was undeniable. Like it was
Yes.
happening that day. It just told me, nope, it's time.
Right. So how is your book different from other leadership books that are out there?
So, I think mine is different because of the format. So it's not necessarily the content. It's, it's 60 short, digestible, practical topics, 60 insights. And most of them are on work. A lot of them are on leadership too. But I think that's really great for people that are leaders, want to be leaders. Even I think we were talking about as we were walking into the studio, potentially those that are kind of aspiring professionals or those early professionals. This is probably a really great book for them as well. So I think it's about the format, it being those quick 60 bites.
Yes.
Because it's really easy to, again, pick it up, read a couple things, and then take it, reflect on it, think a little bit more, and do it. And then pick it up again in another week.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm even going to be posting about and talking about a little bit later in the week on LinkedIn is like, this is a perfect book. Like if you've got team meetings, you know that you have 52 opportunities for development throughout the year. Well, guess what? There's 60 stories.
Yes.
So you could pick one each week and take 5 minutes at the beginning of your meeting and have everybody read it. It takes a minute to read.
Like I was really... Before I came here, really getting into it, I had just opened it because I just got, and I was getting far along because it's quick.
It's quick, like which is on purpose. It's intentional. Like I don't go deep on everything here.
Right.
Like, do I talk about emotional intelligence? Yes. There's wonderful books about emotional intelligence out there. Go and read them. Read those great books on emotional intelligence. But none of it is super, super deep because that's not the purpose of the book.
It's micro.
It's micro. And I wanted people to, even if they get exposed and say, you know what? Ooh, this is an interesting topic. I want to go read more about this. Do it. I love it. You want to learn more about feedback? Go read a little bit more about, CCL's model around feedback. You want to learn a little bit more about emotional intelligence? Great. Go read, go read Amy's book. Go dig in, find out a little bit more about all those things. In some ways, I think that for some people that aren't super big business people or business books or like leadership books, this might be a really great way to get in and kind of learn a little bit more about some of this. So they can it's a foundation so they can decide if they want to dig in deeper.
I agree. And to your point, the depthness comes from the reflection part. And so this is meant to be insights, quick bites of insight to prompt the thinking and self-reflection that could prompt you to want to go deeper. But yes, I love that. So if someone only applied 3 insights from your book, which ones would you want them to start with?
Ooh, that's great. I'm gonna put my glasses up on this one. So I thought about that and I was like, wow, I think it depends on the audience. So there's a lot of different audiences that would probably look at that a little bit different. So I said, okay, if I picked a newer or kind of a manager that's want to continue to grow themselves and kind of remind themselves of some of the most important things, I picked 3 based on that idea. So one of the first ones is insight number 13. So career clarity through conversation. You and I both know having a good career conversation with people is important.
Yes.
This is a list of questions and topics conversation that you can have with people, especially when it comes to their development. Just because we know that's one of the big reasons people leave organizations. It's one of the big reasons that they leave organizations. Yes, managers can sometimes be that, but also development is another big one. That's a big part why people leave organizations. So I think that's one good, especially if you don't feel comfortable having a good development conversation with your people. I think the next one I picked was Insight 27. Are your one-on-ones driving performance or just going through the motions?
I had just started reading that one before we came.
Yeah. And that one's a big one because I actually believe, Rhoda, that one-on-ones are a really powerful tool and they get misused. And it's mainly because no one's really taught a manager or a leader how to have a good one-on-one.
True.
And so if you haven't had a good one-on-one before, you don't really know.
Right.
Most one-on-ones are deeply tactical, very tactical. And it should be way more than that.
Right.
I even think about one-on-ones the way that I think about them in my head is I kind of break them up into thirds. The first third, I want to know, what do they need from me?
Right.
What do they need? What's getting in the way? What advice do they need? What guidance do they need? What problems can I try to solve for them or with them? The second third is really about, okay, well, what might I need to know?
Right.
Or what might I need to share with them? Maybe again, because sometimes where we sit in the organization, we have more information than they do. So how do I share that with them? The third piece is about development.
Right.
Like, again, plug into the development pieces, like how do you have a really good conversation? Make sure that you know a little bit more about what they want, what they need, what experiences, what skills are they trying to go? How can you plug them into some of those experiences so that they can continue to develop and grow? It's a great opportunity to kind of build like real trust and bonding with someone and not just make it a check the box on like, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? It's like, it should be much more than that. So I think one-on-ones are a big one. And then the last one I chose is Insight 30. Accountability isn't mean, it's meaningful.
I love that title when I read that.
And I think the thing with that one is we talk a lot about wanting to be an emotionally intelligent leader, or you hear a lot of the discussion around human-centric leadership. And that is important. But I think what maybe turns some people off, especially people like in the engineering field or the accounting field or lawyers, they're like, feelings, no.
Humans.
Is, to really do this well and to be a good leader, you need to be able to balance and understand not only that emotional intelligence side. Again, you got to treat people well, like you've said a couple times during the podcast. You also have to know how to hold them accountable.
Correct.
Because I think a lot of times when we hear things about like psych safety, people are like, oh, that's so soft. No, like if you read into the concept of psych safety talks a lot about holding people accountable. That's an expectation as part of it. So I think if you're a good leader, you can actually hold people accountable because you need to. As leaders, that's part of our job.
Right.
But then also, how do we really make sure that we are treating people, like humans?
Right.
Because they are. And sometimes we don't know what's going on in their day-to-day, especially if you're having a bad one-on-one, you definitely don't know what's going on at their home.
Right. And if you're canceling them all.
If you're canceling them all the time.
Some leaders do that too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, like that's the worst when they cancel them. I believe at least one-on-ones, and I always tell my team this, those are sacred to me.
Yes.
Like, I am never going to straight up cancel a one-on-one with you. I will do
I might
my
move
best.
it.
I might move it, but I will always make sure that we have time and you have time with me that week.
Yes. Yeah, we're kindred spirits that way. That is some good stuff. I had a thought when you were speaking and it's trying to leave me. I wanted to come back to me.
Come back, thought.
It'll come back. Yeah. So if you had to describe who this book is really for, who would you say it's really for?
Yeah. I think it's for leaders from soup to nuts. So people that are emerging leaders, that are just starting, that are very interested in leadership, all the way to someone who's an executive. I think an executive could get things out of this book as well, and might be more apt to read it, quite honestly, because they probably won't read or don't have the time to read a 300 or 400 page book. So they might actually read this. So I think that's one group.
Right.
I think the second group is just professionals, because the way that this was written, there's a lot of leadership insights in there, but we all know that in our roles, we have to show up in leaders in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And there's just a lot of work insights in here too. Like, how do you kind of build some of these important key skills for work? So I think it's for any professional that has to work in a professional environment at all. I think that's a big one too.
Yes.
So I think those are the two, for me, really big audiences, which pretty much means almost everybody.
Right.
Really, when it comes down to it. I mean, I think I've had a couple people that reviewed it that said, like, I feel like there's a lot of just life lessons in there,
period.
that like people that maybe even aren't super into a professional environment or have to work in a corporate environment, like, could probably get a lot out of this book as well. But I think for me, it's especially like leaders and professionals, anyone that works and does work and works with other people, you probably can get something out of this book.
Yes. I know my thought came back when you were speaking about accountability. So when I say human-centric, it assumes accountability, because for me, if you care about people, you're obligated to tell them the truth and hold them accountable. Caring is, you can be kind in that. An example is I had an employee at the last place I was at, and she was green. So I was constantly coaching and mentoring in a very gentle way, but high accountability. And she knew I have really high standards for people. But I don't just leave them the chance. I help them reach that. And so one time I needed to give her feedback based on an observation I had on a meeting that she asked to lead. And I called her, and because we work remote, and I said, do you have the capacity to receive feedback today? And she said, yes. She got real curious. And that's an example of what I mean by high accountability, but human centric.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she told me I really don't, I wouldn't have given it in that moment. But it doesn't have to be an all lovey-dovey, even though I'm really a lovey-dovey person. But I also know that we have to get work done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make that
I
point.
love that phrase too that you use. Like I've said it in some different ways, but I've never said, do you have capacity
Yes.
for feedback? I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Chef's kiss.
Chef's
Yeah.
kiss.
So Ryan, let's make this real. I'm going to throw out a few scenarios and you can give us quick bite responses.
Sure.
So the first one is a leader says, I didn't have time or I don't have time to develop my team. What's your quick bite?
I think there is one in here, and you mentioned it earlier, this idea of the 70-20-10 10 model, and that one of the ways to be really developing is within work. So like I remember one of my last organizations, I had somebody that was super into, and I think I talked about this in the book, like she wanted to build her strategic capacity.
Right.
And so I gave her a project and said, okay, build the strategy for this. And she goes, oh, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you build the strategy for this. I'm like, it's something you said you want to work on. So go and do it. I'm like, here's a couple people that are really great at strategy too. As you're building it, pick their brains a little bit more too. We're going to talk about it in your one-on-one to see what's working and what's not. But you have to do it within the work, I think, a lot of times. So the leaders that tell me like they don't have time for it, not true, because people have business goals. People often have development goals. We know that you're assigning them work, or they're having work that you're seeing or overseeing in some way, shape, or form. So how do you plug that development into what they're already doing?
Correct.
So that's it for me.
That is so true. On the job. I love that. An employee feels unseen and disengaged. What's one small action a leader can take today?
I think it actually starts with reflection again. So I would probably reflect a little bit to say, am I doing something or have I done something to make that person's behavior change? Like, have I shut them down in a meeting or have I not let them pursue an idea that they were really interested in? Now, maybe there was a reason I didn't let them pursue it, but did I do something? So one, I'm going to probably start with me first.
Right.
A lot of leaders don't do that.
Right.
A lot of leaders don't think about what did I do to potentially cause this scenario. So one, I may not be the problem, but I'm going to at least think through and go, is there anything that I did? Then you got to talk to people. Like this is where you've got to have those harder, those real conversations with your people, those messy conversations of like, look, you know what? Something's different lately. Like you feel a little different. Like, you know, I see you kind of backing off and shying off in meetings a little bit more. Like I get the sense, or maybe you said this the other day and it made me feel that maybe you feel like maybe you're a little unseen or people aren't listening to you. Like, tell me what's going on. Was there something that triggered that? Is it a person? Is it a behavior? Is it something I did? Like I want to be able to help you.
Yes.
So let's talk about what that looks like. But I think you have to ask the question because you might not know. It could be something totally different. Maybe they've got something going on at home.
Right.
Maybe they got something with a parent or a child or their own personal health or a spouse's personal health. Who knows? It could be almost anything. But if you don't ask, you're never going to know.
And you have to have trust.
Yes.
This is where trust is important. Because even if it is something you did, if the employee doesn't feel safe to share that with you. And trust is important to build before you need it.
Yes.
Because in a crisis moment, it's not going to be, you're not going to build it right then. No. It's too late. Yeah. Nope. So that's great advice. What if a high performer is struggling but won't say it? What should a leader do differently?
I think there's a little bit of reflection on this one too. Because I think look at the ecosystem that's going on around that person. I think the one thing with people that are really high performers is we often really have a halo effect. Yes. So, you know, if they're really good at 99% of things or 75% of things, we think they're good at 100% of things. So one of the first things I do in a scenario like that is like, oh, okay, that's someone who's usually totally on it and they're a little off lately. Like what's going on? I'm going to look around the environment. Has something changed? Has their job changed? I think about return to office. Has something changed, you know, around maybe them having to return to the office? You know, are there new expectations that maybe they're not sure of? Because again, we think somebody's really great. That doesn't mean that the new goal or new thing or new system that is coming up doesn't mean that they're going to be great at it or know it or get it or even understand why we're doing it in the first place. So I think I want to look at that bigger, broader ecosystem first. I want to, again, step back a little bit as a leader and think through that a little bit.
Right.
But then I think it goes back to similar what we just talked about is I think you got to have a conversation with them. You got to say, look, Rhoda, you're awesome. I know you're awesome. You do amazing work, Rhoda. Like, something's a little off lately. Like, I've noticed that either it's like, is it, again, if it's not usually a skill thing with you. Is there something kind of from a will perspective that's going on here? Is there something else going on in your life? Are you not sure or comfortable with this new goal or this thing that we've got you working on? Is there something that is kind of taking your motivation away from it? So tell me a little bit more, because this isn't the normal you, Rhoda, that I would see. So what's changed? And I think you've got to have that conversation with them too. And I think you're going to be surprised sometimes what it really is that's leading to that behavior, especially for someone who's like a really super like high performer, high potential type person.
And I call those conversations courageous conversations. Yeah. You just got to have the courageous conversation. And you can even start with, because I care. And you asking, you never know, makes that person feel seen. And so that's important too. The other thing I wanted to mention when we were talking earlier about the self-reflection as the leader, and we don't often see that. They're always, most of the time, looking outward. One of the things I would periodically, not every one-on-one, but periodically at the end of my one-on-ones with my direct reports, I would say, what's something that I do that you want me to continue doing and you want me to do more of it? And they would tell me. And then I would ask the hard question. What's something that I do and you say, oh, I hate when Rhoda do that. I wish she wouldn't do that. And they would often laugh. And I would be very serious. Tell me what it is, because I want the feedback. So to your point, always reflecting and looking inward is important as a leader. And then the final scenario I'll ask is, a peer avoids giving you tough feedback. Speaking of feedback, because they don't want to hurt the relationship, and now the issue has grown. What's your quick bite?
So I think there's two here. So I'll go back to the book on this one, because there's a lot in there about feedback. People are probably like, you're talking a lot about feedback in this book. Well, feedback's big.
It's a big part of leadership.
It's a big part of leadership, big part of work. I mean, no one can really get away from feedback.
Yeah.
So there's two specific quick bites that I'd probably say. One is quick bite 3. So quick bite 3 talks about like asking the right questions. A lot of times people, when they're trying to get feedback, are so general. Like they might say, like, give me some feedback. Like not even specific, like you were saying, like, hey, tell me like what I'm doing that gets in your way the most. And I love that question. I use it a lot, is tell me how am I making your job harder? Like, how can I be better? Like, what am I doing to get in your way? And people love that question. They'll tell you. Maybe not in that one-on-one, but they'll tell you sooner or later. I remember one of the last conversations I had with one of my team members from my last organization. She's like, so that meeting, I had it. I didn't need you to talk at all. And I was like, okay, got it. Perfect. I'm like, the next time we go into those meetings, let's talk about what you want me, how you want me to be involved and how you don't. I was trying to step back, but clearly I didn't step back far enough. So perfect. I'm glad that you were comfortable enough coming to me and telling me that. I'm like, so the next time we go into one of those big meetings, and she's like, I want them to look at me as the expert. I'm like, I want them to look at you as the expert too. She's earlier in her career, and I wanted her to be looked at that way because she was crazy smart. I'm like, yes, I want you to be looked at that way too. So I think 3 is asking the right questions, getting a little bit deeper, making sure you're asking the right questions and not just asking a general question about feedback. But I think 33 is another big one that I've got in there as well. And 33 talks a little bit more as a leader. Let's say that you know that something isn't working. Or again, in this scenario, maybe you can tell like there's something off with the relationship. So I think it's really getting in there and saying, okay, so like, tell me more about our relationship, or, hey, like I'm feeling maybe we're a little bit off and like I might need to tweak or adjust the way that we're having the conversation. There's a model that I talk about in there because I think leaders struggle with this. Like once they do get feedback or know that there's something going on, I actually, advertise what I think the problem is. So I go to the person or even this might be in front of a team. I used to help leaders do this when I was back at Monsanto. Like they really struggled because back then they got what was called an L180 and every single person on their team filled this out. And if you had enough of them, you got to see from your direct team, how are you doing?
How they were experiencing
you. And so what would come of that was like, okay, like, well, you see that there's some things in here that you need to work on. And so I would have them dig in and say, okay, look, start with advertising. you know what? I listened. I heard what you guys had to
Mm-hmm.
say here. These seem to be the big 3 things that I really need to work on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to first advertise
Mm-hmm.
and like let you know that, yep,
I heard you.
I heard you.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, 2 is to really empower them.
Mm-hmm.
Empower them to give you the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know that, like, you know what? I want to get better at these things. I probably can't do this just solely by myself. So I need your help.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to give me the high sign when I'm
Right.
going too long in a meeting or I'm
Yes.
talking over you or whatever it is. You need to let me know and do it in a respectful way, but let me know. Let's
Right.
talk about how you can do that. Sometimes as a leader, that might also be coupled with I need to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
You just did like earlier in my
Right.
career, like I've done this. So
Yes.
you were showing like
Mm-hmm.
that apologize
Mm-hmm.
aspect of like
Mm-hmm.
empower and apologize.
Yes.
And then last, it seems crazy, but you follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you do all of that and you go through all of that and you make this big, like,
Mm-hmm.
help me get better as a leader and then never do anything with it,
Right.
forget it.
You lose trust.
You lose trust. And I think that's a similar scenario and
Mm-hmm.
situation with that. Like, you want to get in there, you want to have the right conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If there is something you're doing to really upset that person or something that's not going well in the relationship, be like, okay, you know what? All right, I hear you. So it sounds like
Right.
I need to work on this when it comes to our relationship. I'm empowering you to give me the feedback. I apologize for maybe getting
Right.
in the way. The
Right.
last couple months, I thought I was actually helping. Maybe I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really helping. And let's make sure that we do a monthly one-on-one and that we
Yes.
touch base and we make sure that what I need to work on is being
Mm-hmm.
adjusted. Maybe they've got something they need to work on. Maybe it's,
Mm-hmm.
again, relationships are often
Right.
two-sided. So how can we come to the table and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're making those tweaks and adjustments so that we can work better together?
Those are great. Those are great. So, Ryan, what habits separate leaders who grow from those who stay stuck?
I think intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's intentionality.
Yes.
I think the people that I've seen that, whether you're a leader or not, quite honestly, the ones that I think that do the best are intentional about it and invest the time and the energy and think about that reflection piece.
Right.
Like those are the ones that do it. Like if you say you're going to do something or you're going to develop, you stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
You keep that time on you, similar to one-on-ones like I talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That development time should probably be a little sacred.
Yes.
And I get it. It's hard to sometimes fit it in with everything else that's going on in the world. But when I'm really honest and candid about it, the people that I've seen grow and develop, the people that I'm inspired by and that I'm impressed with from a leadership perspective, and I have high expectations, very, very, very high expectations. It's the ones that are intentional about it.
Right.
It's the one that's taken the time, that have put the effort in, that, again, might have their routine of like, I'm going to wake up in the morning and read this one book or read a chapter from this one book and then think about how I'm going to dig into it. The people that actually change their behaviors and try out new things, because that's a big part of what this book is about, is like small, practical, easy things. I don't expect you to like change overnight, but change your behaviors a little bit.
Yes.
Just a little bit. And so those small changes can have a big impact on what your leadership
small
looks like.
victories add up.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, what is one mindset shift leaders need right now?
It's a good one. I do think we talked about the one-on-one thing earlier. I think that's a big one. I do think leaders need to make sure that they're having good one-on-ones. The reason why I think they need to make sure that they're having good one-on-ones, whether they're doing this in a one-on-one format or not, I think they need to be really touching base with people. There's a lot going on in this world right now. And a lot of it's really confusing and things are changing on a day-to-day basis. There's not a lot of stability in this country right now. And when we really think about what's important for people in an organization, and stability is a big one. Hope is a big one.
Yes.
And there's a kind of a lot less hope and stability going on right now in this world.
We kind of have all been suffering from post-traumatic syndrome since COVID days, to be honest
100%.
with you.
Yeah. And I think it's just continued to get more challenging and there's so much change that's going on every day in this country right now. Don't forget that.
Right.
Like, there's some people on your team that are probably totally fine and they're just like blocking it all out and they're good. There's probably a lot of people on your team that are really struggling too. So I think take the time, have the conversation, get to know your people, get to know them, get to know what really makes them excited and what demotivates them, but just check in on them, make sure that they're okay. I think everyone needs to do that right now. Sometimes even as leaders, we need to be checked in as well.
That's so true. And especially too, one thing we haven't mentioned, but I saw that you have a insight on, is the remote and hybrid workforce. So when a lot of us are working remote, it's very lonely.
Yes.
And you don't if you're not touching base and connecting with people intentionally, you can lose them. They could stay, but be gone at the same time, if that makes sense.
I think, the last 5 years, what we've seen is there was probably already a little bit of a loneliness problem in this country anyways. But I think in this country and even in the world, we've seen a lot being written around this loneliness epidemic, because it is. Like, even people that I know that are introverted, that again gain their energy usually from a conversation with one person versus a big party or going to a big meeting. Like, even they can get lonely just being at home working by themselves.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard when you are in a fully remote role, or even if you go into the office and literally you've been sitting behind a microphone or Zoom or Teams
you drive
all
to the
day
office to do that.
to do that. Like, you're literally sitting in a or you're sitting at your, maybe you've eaten lunch there too. Like, you've literally not left your desk all day besides to go to the bathroom. Like, that can be just as lonely as sitting at home and doing that. Yeah, there might be a whole bunch of people around you, but that doesn't mean that you've even got time to talk to them.
Right. And Ryan, even some people I talk to that have to go in the office like 2 days or 3 days a week, they go and it may be 1 or 2 people in the whole building. So that it's like reinforced loneliness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. So Ryan, if every listener took one small action after this episode, one small action, what should it be?
Yeah, I think it's buy the book.
Yes.
that was my thought too. Yeah, buy the book, I think. And again, it's not about making massive, huge changes to the way that you're leading. It's about small changes.
Yes.
And it's about being thoughtful. It's about being reflective. It's, again, thinking about how are you going to get that repetition and that real world in. And this is a great way to do that. It's easy. That's why I wrote it, so that it would make it easy and practical for people to be able to do this. So pick it up. Pick one. Pick the one that speaks to you the most, even if you just go through, if you go through and look at all the titles and say, okay, yeah, this is the one that I think means the most to me right now. Read it, reflect, figure out how you're going to actually apply it in those next couple of weeks. And then when you're done, go back and pick another one.
Yes. Yes. I love that. So Ryan, if they wanted to follow you, connect with you, reach out to you. And if there's leaders on the call listening and they want to bring you in for a workshop, even with their teams, how might they find you?
Yes, you can definitely get me on LinkedIn. So I post quite a bit on LinkedIn. So that's a great place to get me, keep up to date on kind of what I'm doing. Also, you can get me on www.quickbitesofinsight.com. So it's got a website that just went live yesterday. So people can check it out there on the site. You've got an email, again, Ryan@quickbitesofinsight.com. They can reach out to me about workshops, keynotes, other ways that they might want me to potentially work with them and help them continue to grow and develop their leaders. And also, there's even a place there to just leave me a note if you don't even want to email. If you just want to go to the website and do that too as well. You can do that too. So I think those are the best places. Check out the website. It's all up there. It's live. I'm excited for people to see it. And then catch me on LinkedIn, because it's always a great place. And I check that quite often.
And the book is available where?
It is available on, so both versions of it are available on Amazon, on bookshop.org, on
Is it Barnes and Noble?
On Barnes and Noble, not in the stores yet, but it's on the site. And then there is a smattering of other places like Kobo and places that you can get, the digital copy if you really like an ebook. And that's all on the site. Like all the little logos and links for everywhere you can buy the book are on quickbitesofinsight.com.
I love it. Ryan, this has been a fun conversation. Now, this is a topic I can talk about for quite a long time. Super passionate about it. And I just love that you took those insights that you had and you put them in this format and future formats to come. This was a powerful conversation, and it's life-changing for those that take this subject matter serious and that are intentional about their development and specifically about their leadership development. So you made leadership feel practical, real, and doable. So kudos to you. Quick Bites of Insight, Micro-Sized Learning on Work and Leadership. Ryan McCrea, get the book. What I love most is this reminder: you do not need massive change to become a better leader. You need consistent, intentional moments. And to everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, go grab Ryan's book, Quick Bites of Insight. Start small. Stay consistent. Watch what shifts. And thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. And thank you for our listeners Tuning in to Breakthrough Conversations with Rhoda and Company. This is your reminder that your breakthrough does not have to be big to be meaningful. It starts with one step. Thank you all for listening.
Hey, what's your secret? You got the kind of vibe that leaves you speechless. It could be model multitasking genius. Yeah, you got it all. Hey, what's your story? A kick-ass mom and 40 under 40. A soccer practice in your high heel glory. Yeah, you do it all.